Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel today. Wolves are away to Brighton this weekend. Apologies if the bags under my eyes are getting bigger, more stress, more work, and more Wolverhampton Wanderers to talk about. Again, it sounds like I'm repeating the intro from the last few previews, but Wolves remain winless and remain searching for their first Premier League win of the season, and it's another tough trip this weekend against Brighton, who have had a very positive start to the season once again and currently sat in 5th place in the Premier League as of Friday afternoon. As always, a big shout out to our channel partners over at Football Prizes. This week they've got a signed and framed Jose Sarr shirt up for grabs. If you want to get involved in that competition, there are tickets available in the link at the top of the description down below, but that finishes next Thursday, the 31st of October. But Wolves on the travels this weekend. Like I said earlier, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and drop us a 5-star rating if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But yeah, I mean, the Manchester City game last weekend was frustrating because it was just real fine margins, wasn't it? And you could look at that game in two ways. Wolves went into it with a clear plan, which almost worked. I felt we reduced Manchester City to very, very few clear-cut opportunities, to be completely honest. If you think about it, their goal was one from range, which, to be honest, can't take much away from the strike. Maybe Wolves could have pressed a little bit more, but a fantastic strike from Vardiol to give City the lead. And the other one, frustratingly, once again, Wolves conceding from from the corner. And obviously there was a little bit of a debate about the goal, but well, I mean, we spoke about it on the podcast. I'm not going to bring it up again. But now it's a slightly different task for Wolves. I look at Brighton and think, look, very, very good team. Have tended to have the edge over Wolves over the last couple of years, but they're still a team that I look at and think we can take the game to them. And to be honest, we can easily get, I say easily, we can get a result there. Look, they're taking nothing away from Brighton. I think they've got quality players or a quality outfit, both on and off the pitch. But just whenever we match up against them, I think the games are extremely close. I mean, even earlier this season when we played them in the Cup, I know it was rotated sides, but Wolves probably should have done a lot better in that game and had the quality to do better in that game. We beat them in the FA Cup last year as well. I look at their home games as well. They have dropped points to Ipswich and Forest at home, which does give me that little glimmer of hope. But obviously we'll speak a little bit more later on in the video against Brighton, about Brighton with Ryan, the Brighton fan. But we've had Gary O'Neill's pre-match press conference today. Again, didn't seem to be too doom and gloom, to be honest. Gary seemed to be sort of business as usual. I think, again, he understands the task at hand. In terms of team news, no real updates on other players, but the main issue was addressed pretty much straight away in regards to the goalkeeper issue. He said that Sam Johnson has trained for most part of the week, to be honest, so back in contention. They'll make a decision tomorrow, which is Saturday, about the goalkeeper spot. But it's already clear in his mind who is going to be the best goalkeeper for the match. Now, this sort of goes hand in hand with the comments that he made last weekend after the City game, where he said it won't be any real headache to decide whether Sarr or Johnston starts in goal, and it wasn't a headache last week. So part of me does think that this means Johnston is probably straight back in goal. There have been some reports from the likes of the Express and Star who, before the press conference today, had a little bit of confidence that Sarr would start in goal. But with comments that Gary O'Neill made today, I think for me I would probably side with Johnston starting. In terms of shape and formation, I would be intrigued to see if Gary mixes it up a little bit. I actually liked, on paper, I like the team, and I think there is a little bit of flexibility with the team that he started last weekend. There is an argument that you could put in the likes of Tommy Doyle, the likes of Carlos Forbes, the likes of Rodrigo Gomez, even Pablo Sarabia. I think deserves more game time and more minutes. I think he's such a quality player. To come off the bench, I'm really surprised at his lack of minutes, to be completely honest. But I wasn't too disheartened, I suppose, with the starting lineup. And that's why, if we move on to my predicted lineup now, I think we could go and change, but with Jose Sarr out of the team for Sam Johnson. Not that I agree with that, by the way. I thought Jose had a really solid game last weekend, and I feel, in my opinion, with the way that Wolves worded it when Sam Johnson was signed, it was that they had two number ones competing with each other. In my mind, if one of them is putting a very good performance at a weekend, ideally they should keep their place in the team. I don't think this is going to happen. I think tomorrow against Brighton, it will make it very, very clear who Gary O'Neill has as his number one. So therefore, I think it will be Johnston in goal, back five of Ait-Nouri and Semedo as wing backs. Bueno to keep his spot was very decent last weekend, and Totti with Dawson. I think this back five allows a little bit of flexibility a lot of the time, like we saw last weekend, where Ryan Ait-Nouri can push further forward and Totti can slot into a back four as a left back of a back four. The midfield three, I think, will keep its place. I think it'll be Andre, I think it'll be João Gomes, and I think Mario Lemina, the captain, will keep his place again with Jorgen Strand-Larsen and Matheus Cunha as that front two. But of course, if Ryan pushes forward a little bit more, we may well see Matheus moving to like a number 10 or right hand side role. But I am intrigued. I think tomorrow's lineup and squad will tell us a lot more, probably more than what we've seen so far this season, because there's a lot of situations. We changed shape last week and it did okay. There are some people that maybe haven't had opportunities. Other managers who I think would have given it a real shake when he was struggling that much. There's so many good players on the bench. Gary made comments about Rodrigo Gomez because he was brought up a little bit during the pre-match press conference in regards to his game time and basically said, look, I get to see him every day in training and he's not up to scratch yet. Fair enough. But I think, we saw in pre-season that he has got the quality to change games. And hopefully, we do see that a little bit more in the future as well. But I had the pleasure of sitting down with Ryan Adsett, who's a big Brighton fan, part of the Seagulls social side, and to get his thoughts, to speak a little bit about Brighton and get his thoughts ahead of the game and life under, yet again, a new manager. So then, Ryan, good start to the season for Brighton. They're sat in 5th right now. Yeah, mixed bag of fixtures. You had some tough games in there, but how are you feeling? Are you sort of as positive as what the league table is showing so far?
No, is that okay to say? I don't know.
Right,
I think I'm probably actually a bit questionable. It's a different Brighton, David. This is the thing. It's not the same Brighton that I'm used to coming on and saying we're going to dominate. We're going to be the team to watch. Any game we go to, I'm sort of quite confident. I'm actually a bit different this year, but it's been a very, very different start to the season. We've rarely started games very well. As you saw in the Newcastle game, we weren't actually playing that well. We took the lead against the run of play, and we pretty much didn't really do too much else, to be honest. We closed the game off really well, and it was a smash and grab. And it's probably the first time I can say Brighton have done a smash and grab since probably when we got promoted. I can't really think of another time when it happened. So
wow,
it's a very different Brighton. It's probably a naive one. We spent a lot of money, so there's more expectation. We want to be sort of competing for Europe again. And obviously looking at Wolves in the table, it's like, you think we should be going and winning this game quite comfortably. But actually, I'm really not sure, to be honest. I'm not just saying that because I'm on a Wolves podcast either.
Yeah, I mean, I did a video for you earlier in the week as well, and
yeah,
I was looking. It's a real mixed bag of fixtures, but mixed bag of results as well, because you've picked up points against the likes of Arsenal, beating Newcastle, beating Manchester United, beating Spurs. I mean, your only loss of the season has come away at Chelsea, but the two fixtures and results really that I focus on are the two home games you had against Ipswich and Forest, where you dropped points in both of those games. And as a Wolves fan, look, I'm not going into this game thinking, we can, go and get 3 points, or, it's going to be, a winnable game. But those two fixtures give me that sort of glimmer of hope that maybe we could get something out of the game. Like, what do you think the reasoning was between those two games why you dropped points? Because the Forest, albeit I don't know what minute, they had a red card. Yeah, Morgan Gibbs, towards it, to be fair, it was late on in that game. But why did you drop points in those sort of games, do you think?
To be honest, I think Ipswich is the one we played better, which sounds crazy. I think actually Ipswich, we should have probably won that quite comfortably. It was just a matter of we didn't take our chances, and you can live with that based on the balance of the game. It was a bit frustrating, but it is what it is. I think the Forest game actually was one where the high line, again, where I was a bit worried, and I was thinking, okay, we need to drop this line if we're going to play against a decent team. And it was actually the game before Chelsea, from what I'm saying, because when we played Chelsea, I thought, if we play a high line, we're going to get smashed. And we did. And I think that game against Forest, we did very well to turn it round. I think we were very... You're seeing a passionate Brighton. You're seeing a Brighton that likes to fight now. And I think that's quite good. I think, again, it's not the same sort of Brighton you associate Brighton with. You think of beautiful style of play. You think of passing through, taking the ball from the goalkeeper to the back of the net on the other side. So we don't really do that so much. It's a little bit more sort of passion merchant-y football, maybe a little bit Newcastle back a few years ago, if you remember. And that Forest game, I think a draw was probably fair. I mean, to their credit, Forest had started the season really well. So I'll give them that, and I wasn't too dissatisfied with it. It was more the style of play, and the fact that the draw probably wasn't that shocking, and that for me was the worry. I thought actually the way the goal came about was quite foreseeable. The line was so high, it only took a half decent ball to get through, and you could see that was going to happen. It only took that one chance, and they took it really well. As I say, we fought well to get back. We probably should have taken a 3-1 to knock the game off, but we didn't. And yeah, maybe it is a little bit of a case of, and you rightly say, coming up against the side that's a bit lower in the league, away from home, as you guys will be up for it. There's not too much to lose. You can see why that maybe that little crumble factor that's in us is still there. It's always that banana skin, isn't it, that you struggle with? But Brighton of history have always been a bit, when teams below us, when we're the favourites, we do tend to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, we had that a lot. Sort of, I always think the first season we came back into the Premier League under Nuno, and we beat most of the top six, some teams even more than once, and we'd lose. I think we lost twice to Huddersfield, for argument's sake, who went down. There were a number of teams that we really struggled against for whatever reason. Obviously, we've already played you guys earlier on in the season. This feels like it's just almost one of those fixtures we seem to have 3 or 4 times a year, to be honest, including cup games. But I thought the cup game was close. I mean, we started off that game dreadfully, to be honest, and we grew into that. In the second half, I thought, I still today don't understand how we didn't score more goals, and obviously, you got the goal towards the end, which pretty much killed it off. But I thought that was quite a close game. Obviously, both teams rotated a little bit. So again, that gives me that little bit of hope. But Ryan, in terms of the management, obviously we've seen Potter to De Zerbi, which is almost like a flawless transition in terms of results started, was staying at a decent level. Completely, well, you correct me if I'm wrong, sort of a completely different sort of direction in terms of manager, a really young manager, 31 years of age, which is, almost unheard of, I suppose, in the Premier League. Fabian, Hürzeler. Talk to me about him a little bit more, a little bit of backstory on him, and how's he got you playing? Has there been a major change in play style for Brighton as well?
Yeah, Hürzeler's is a very impressive CV in a weird sense that he's come from such a young age. In fact, he was 23 when he first started coaching, which is absolutely insane. If you didn't know, he was in the Bayern Academy. And I think he got to about 23 and realised, okay, I'm not going to play for Bayern Munich. I'm probably not going to make it too far as a footballer. So decided to go with the coaching and has done that very, very well. Wow. Grew over 7 years since then, and very admirably got himself to be the St. Pauli manager. St. Pauli, when he took over, they were sort of in that relegation spot. I think they were just clear of the relegation, looking pretty doomed. From that, they went on a 10-game winning run. He took them from right at the bottom of the league to all but at the top. The following season, he did actually win the league and get them promoted. So it's a very impressive return. A very young manager to get that sort of reaction out of a team is no sort of disrespect on him whatsoever. But I think when you come over from the Bundesliga 2 to come to the Premier League, now that's a jump and a half, of course, as we all expected.
Yeah, for sure.
To be honest with you, when he came over, my fear wasn't the age. I actually was thinking, okay, if we're going to bring a manager in, I don't really mind who it is. I don't really care where they've come from. I couldn't care less how old they are. If the club makes a decision, I tend to back it, as we rightly should, with how Bloom has been and the track record we've had over the last 10 years or so. So I thought, okay, let's see how it goes. He came over. Instantly, you could sort of see what he was trying to do. I'd say the style was different straight away. There was probably less emphasis on this building up from the back. I'd say it's a little bit more take the chances when you see them. You see with the sort of players we brought in are a lot more physical. They like to be a bit more direct. As you see with Yankuba Minte, he doesn't really tend to think too much. He just wants to go for goal. Mintoma's a bit of a similar sort of style player on the other side. But even as you guys saw the other end of Carlos Baleba, we're bringing in players sort of around him. Matt O'Reilly's come in. We've promoted Jack Hinchelwood a lot more into that starting 11. Matt Sweefer, more physically dominant players to be in midfield, where we got overrun week in, week out last season. And I guess it's a bit of a balance to, say Brighton have been through this bad period. They've sold a lot of players. We've got a lot of money in the bank. now we've come back and we spent the money, but rightly so. It's raised the fans' expectations. You know, when you spend 200 million, we're talking about Chelsea, we're talking about Man United, we're talking about the big teams in the league that spend that sort of money, and rightly so. The expectations are high. If I'm honest with you, I don't know. I think that the plan A was not my favourite. I didn't like the fact that we were playing so high. I thought we conceded way too many chances compared to what we used to. We weren't in control of games like we were. Last season, maybe season before, you would have called us the best build-up team in the world or one of them. Now I would say we're nowhere near. And I think there's a couple of things that we've definitely not quite, we've struggled with a bit. And at first I called it teething problems, but then I see us go to Newcastle and park the bus. Okay, we've won the game, and I'm really, really happy about that. I think the results have been absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't ask for any more. I just probably asked for, hopefully, the style of play settles. You know, he's a naive manager. He's obviously young. Hopefully that sort of goes across the squad, and they tend to grow and make it click, because consistency-wise, you want to see into the sort of near future, and hopefully that consistency tends to pick up a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, so maybe not doubts, but are you sort of in a similar sort of camp to, are there quite a few Brighton fans that are almost reserving judgment on the manager a little bit for now?
I'd say so, yeah. And I don't want to discredit Fabian Hürzeler, because I think that's really unfair. I think, as I say, you couldn't ask for any more return in terms of points. I think you couldn't ask for any more return in terms of how we've won some games. That game against Spurs is a magnificent turnaround. Never happened before in our history. Absolute credit. But again, you'd probably say that was a bit more of a passionate response. You'd say that was one where the players really, really turned up, and it was a night where everything went well. Chances were coming out and we were scoring them. And a similar sort of thing happened at Newcastle. We did park the bus, but again, it was a passionate display. There was one where the players are up for it, and it's what you want. As I say, yeah, the reserve judgment is probably one where you're happy with the passion, you're happy with the fact that you can turn games around now, but you just want to see maybe that beautiful style to stick around, because at the end of the day, I like to see Brighton play good football. And as much as I'm really, really happy with the result 1-0 against Newcastle, which was a brilliant away day, by the way, absolute, brilliant away end. I thought it was a great day out. You couldn't ask for any more than a smash and grab sometimes. But as long as it is sometimes, because you can't just do that every single week, or on the other complete side of the extreme, you can't play a high line every week. So I guess it's finding that balance, and hopefully Hürzeler does do it. He is very young, as we say, so there's a lot of time for him, but do we have the time this season with the amount of money we've spent? I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a few different players there. Some players that Wolves fans will be familiar with. I mean, Matoma, for argument's sake, is given players such as Nelson Semedo an absolute nightmare over the last couple of years.
That's unbelievable.
So was I, unfortunately. But then there's other players like Minter who maybe we've not really seen as much of in the Premier League. Who are the players that have sort of stood out for you so far, Ryan? Players that maybe we should watch out for on Saturday?
I think Matoma always has to be spoken about when you talk about players to watch. He's absolutely unbelievable. I've probably one of the highest quality players I've seen at this club. I can't believe he's still here, if I'm being honest. I actually said he was a sort of Mahrez-esque replacement for City. I really thought they'd go for him instead of Doku, but I'm glad they didn't. And yeah, he's the difference maker at the best of times. You won't see João Pedro, unfortunately for us. He is still injured. And you won't see Yankuba Minte either, because he's injured too. So there's a late check on Danny Welbeck as of today. That's recording this today anyway. So we'll find out sort of on the day, I suppose, with Welbs. Hopefully he's fit, because he's been unbelievable this season. The finest of wines, Danny Welbeck. He's been doing an unbelievable return for us this year. I think the one at the moment, the one that's in form, I have to give it to him, is Jorginho Rutter. He's been the 40 million signing from Wolves. Sorry, not you guys. Leeds.
Leeds.
And Leeds fans aren't happy about it, and I couldn't be happier about it, because he's been brilliant, and hopefully just keeps kicking on. But we'll see. They're the ones to watch. I think in the midfield as well, Carlos Baleba. You saw, as I say, that goal against you guys in the cup was a great strike. He's been sort of that bit of muscle, that bit of powerhouse. His ball carrying is brilliant. Maybe you want to see a little bit more support around him when Mats Wiefer gets into the team. We've got a really, really good team, has to be said. Our side is stacked with individuals, and that's what I'm saying. I want Hürzeler to really get the best out of these players, because it's the strongest squad I've seen in my lifetime, and I've watched this team since we were in League One. So this is different ground for us,
Yeah, it's strange you say that about squad and the individuals. It feels like Wolves have almost got probably the best squad depth that we've had since promotion back to the Premier League. Not maybe the quality of individuals, because of course we've had the likes of Matidio and so on in the past. But in terms of depth, it seems like we're the most settled. But for whatever reason, obviously we're struggling. I don't know. I'm not expecting you to have watched every single minute of every game, Ryan. But sort of as an outsider, what sort of your thoughts on what's going on at Wolves at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I put you as sort of being in and around our spot. I would say maybe not fifth, but probably in and around that, contender for getting into the Conference League. And, that's maybe my naive brain looking at Wolves without really understanding what's going on. And that's probably what I did. And I probably judged you guys as being a decent side that, Gary O'Neill, we keep using the word today, apparently passion merchant sort of player manager, and he likes to get the best out of his squad and fired them up a little bit. And it did work really well last season, it has to be said. I mean, you said you dropped off a little bit towards the end of the season and whatever, but I thought you went through a good period. You have, again, as you say, you've got good players. I always like the look of Cunha. I think Cunha's a magnificent player. I don't know if you probably agree with me, but whenever I watch him, he always turns up. I think he's a great player. I don't know what's happening with you guys. I mean, you could probably tell me better. You told me you had a really, really hard start to the season. I've got to be honest, when you sent me that video, I didn't realise just how many big teams and how many difficult games you had played. So that really did speak volumes. I'd heard from a few people saying that Wolves hadn't actually been too bad. It was more just about sort of the unluckiness, I guess, which seems to be associated with you guys, not just on the pitch, but apparently with VAR as well. You seem to be the unluckiest team in the league.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, very quickly, I think after we play you guys, I think we've played all bar one of the top 8, I think. No, I think we've played everyone in the bar Spurs, yeah. So after we play you, Spurs are the only team in the current top 8 that we've not played. So in terms of good teams, but informed teams, because obviously I'm including Nottingham Forest in that as well. We have had a tricky start, but a lot of there have been performances where we've been unlucky, but there's been some of the manner of the defeats haven't been great as well. Like Brentford a couple of weeks ago before the international break was an awful defeat, and there were a section of the Wolves fans that sort of weren't too happy with the management after that game. So I think this one, I'm not going to say I don't think Gary will go if we lose on Saturday, for argument's sake, unless Brighton beat us, very, very comfortably, which may still happen, we don't know. But like I said to you before we started, we play Southampton and Palace in our 2 following games. Both of those teams also winless, so must wins for him as well. But I mean, yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, like you said, I would have expected maybe not the highs of sort of 7th and 8th, but definitely a comfortable mid-table sort of side Wolves. I think in terms of the quality that we've got, we should certainly be in and around that sort of spot. But like I said on the video I sent to you earlier this year, Brighton has sort of set the standard in terms of a club on and off the field. For me as an outsider, obviously you might think a little bit differently because you know a lot more of the ins and outs than I do, but certainly in terms of recruitment and what's happening right now, very quickly on that, Ryan, obviously there's a lot of players that come in for Brighton, not necessarily for cheap, but for good prices, and after 2-3 years you're flipping them on for serious profit. What's your thoughts as a fan on that? Because we have Wolves fans that are sort of think, yeah, that's the way we're going to be. You're never going to be able to compete with the top 6 and top 4 in regards to spending hundreds of millions each season. But there are some fans that, frustrated because obviously you want to keep your best players. But Brighton are probably one of the best examples of almost selling those players at the right time, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can't knock Brighton's recruitment. It's impossible. They are, and we are, should I say, the best probably in the league, the best arguably in the world. I think with how shrewdly it's done, it's pretty unbelievable to watch, to be honest. And I don't tend to doubt when we sign someone. I mean, I remember, as I said to you earlier, Jorginho, when he was signed from Leeds, it was like that's a bit much. Why are Brighton doing this? They're changing their philosophy. Yeah. They're going for a sort of best player from another team. And I thought, no worries, because I just thought if we're doing that, we must see a lot in him to spend that sort of money in him, and that's what I sort of thought. I thought if we're going to start breaking it a little bit and spending a little bit more, then I expect these players just to be a little bit better than what we signed before. I think the recruitment from abroad is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, as you see, Facundo Buonanotte, for example, at Leicester is doing a brilliant job, and I want him to keep doing well, but I don't want him to stay or go anywhere else because I want him to come back to Brighton and come back here. But again, it's a testament to Bloom for sort of seeing that top six, if you like, the traditional sort of big teams, and saying, look, we can be there, we can do that, we just can't afford to do that. So how are we going to do that? We're going to give them assets that they can afford, give us the money, and we can sort of start making the money that way. And when you look at sort of the level of talent across so many different teams and across the world, not just here and not just in Europe, but across the world, and I don't just mean even going to sort of Germany, I mean going to South America, going to Japan to go pick up the likes of Julio Enciso from Paraguay, the likes of Mitoma from Japan for 2.5 million. You know, now Mitoma you'd be associating with a 50, 60, 70, 80 million pound player. So it's a testament to that sort of vision, and it has to be said, Brentford are very good in that too. But it's a tool that Bloom's got, mate, and that's what people can't quite get their head around. It's Bloom's sort of algorithm, I think it's called, that he's got in his businesses, that he's built this sort of unbelievable empire across not just football, but it goes into staff, it goes into gambling, it goes into poker, it goes into so many different things. And you see him now sort of trying the multi-club ownership with more than just us, but he's gone to, I think, looking into Scotland, he's looking into the Belgian leagues, taking over more clubs. And, you know, is that algorithm bringing out more players than we're even getting to see? You know, how far does this go for him to start saying, look, I can start taking over some Scottish teams and, you know, maybe building a player up there that could be good enough for Brighton one day, or maybe they exceed the levels that could even be acquired by Celtic and Rangers over there. So it's unbelievable, really, and it's I say, complete testament. We're very, very lucky, it has to be said, and we're very, very lucky that this guy is a Brighton fan, because if he wasn't, then wow, we would be in a different world.
Yeah. That sort of answered my next question. I said, you know, I suppose when you've got people looking at other clubs, maybe a little part of you starts to worry that maybe Brighton aren't going to be the main focus anymore. But I mean, that's answered my question. If he's a Brighton fan, I don't think you haven't got anything to worry about.
Goes for his whole family of Brighton fans. Goes to Harry Bloom, obviously Tony. Brighton's in his blood. You can see it. And that's what I like about this club so much, is he is a Brighton fan. I mean, you could talk about Brighton plastic fans and stuff, saying we've got two team supporters and whatever. The most important thing is he isn't one of them, and that, you know, he is going to stay here. He's going to keep pushing that forward, because I love it. It gives you that sort of sense of, you know, passion for the club. You can see when he celebrates, it's like, you know, I think he sits in the away end at Brentford because of when he fell out with the owner there and whatever else. So, you know, you get to sort of feel that from him, and I think that's the most important thing for us. All the time he's a billionaire, we're laughing, but mate, he took over us when we were in League One. I think he kept us up 2009, and you think the sort of journey that we've been on. My dad's been a Brighton fan since the 70s, so he's seen Brighton being really bad. I mean, I've seen them being bad, but he's seen them being really bad. You know, going out of business bad, almost being not a club bad. You know, so, you know, Bloom's seen that, and he's changed that, and we can't be any more grateful for that. But at the same time, it's 2024, and you always have to look on and you have to look forward. You can't always go back to the past, but sometimes it's really important to remember, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Ryan, go back to the match score prediction. What you thinking ahead of Saturday's game? Sorry, I know not many people like doing score predictions. But...
I hate doing score predictions because, one, I'm never right, and two, I tend to jinx things. Do you know what? I think I feel like you could get something, but I don't want to say that because I just worry when we play teams below us and we sort of get a little bit, you know, complacent, a little bit happy. We think, okay, we beaten Newcastle, beaten Spurs, Wolves, they'll be the alright ones, and then we get shocked, and you think, okay, right, back to reality. I can't come on here and predict a loss or a draw. That's just wrong, isn't it? Let's say we keep it up. Let's say we prove me wrong, and let's say we don't. Please don't play a stupidly high line, because I think you are good enough to exploit that. And please don't park the bus again. Let's just sort of see a bit of a middle ground somewhere. The old Brighton that would just try and control the game, stay on top of you, try and score early, and just try and control that narrative. Because how many times do we sort of like to throw it away? And Newcastle showed that different mentality. So let's say a 2-0, because I think if we do score first, I think we will see it. I think we'll be okay. But if you score first, then you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I was saying Arsenal, the only team right at the start of the season, our first game, have stopped us from scoring. Although we've been awful, we have scored in every other game, to be fair. So I would be very interested to see how it goes. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Ryan, before I let you go, where can people find you and your content if they wish?
Oh yeah, if you want to follow me, I mean, I doubt many Wolves fans want to follow a Talk Seagulls podcast. To be fair, so you can follow me, just Ryan Adset on Twitter or TSR Football on Instagram. We do some cool stuff, and Dave could even be on there as well if we do some stuff with him. So yeah, make sure you come over. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Be sure
on.
to check it out, guys. No worries, mate. And yeah, thank you. Apart from Saturday, mate, all the best for the rest of the season. I really do hope we somehow manage to get 3 points, but I'm sure I'll catch you for the reverse fixture as well next time.
Yeah,
Cheers,
mate,
man.
definitely. We'll play you another 4 times yet, so I'll see you a couple more times. But yeah. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you. Cheers. So big thanks to Ryan. I'll make sure to leave a link to him and his channels in the description down below. And yeah, it's another tough game for Wolves. But you know what? I really hope in about 24 hours time I'm sat here again and celebrating, or at least talking about a positive result. I think if Wolves can get a point or 3 points even better on the board for tomorrow, we will be in a much better position going into those games against Palace and Southampton, because the pressure on Gary O'Neill will be monumental if he doesn't win tomorrow. So, you know, he needs to get 3 points. I think he can do it. And if we can, we go into those games with a little bit more confidence against Palace, against Southampton, and we could get ourselves out a little bit of a mess. But tomorrow is a big game, tough game, don't get me wrong, because Brighton have been very, very good. But if Wolves are on their A game, they can cause problems. So let's see if we can do that tomorrow at the Amex. As always, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating. But until next time, guys, enjoy your weekend. Fingers crossed for 3 points tomorrow, and come on, you Wolves.